Sometimes a big film comes along and despite everything, it's just ignored. Here's 5 big-budget films that absolutely flopped at the box office. The 13th Warrior. The 13th Warrior is a 1999 action film from director John McTiernan. The movie was loosely based on the 1976 novel Eaters of the Dead by Michael Crichton. I personally would have preferred if they kept that title. The 13th Warrior is very generic. Anyway, the movie adaptation ended up being a mix of the novel, the Old English poem Beowulf, and a historical account of the Volga Vikings. It's about a poet played by Antonio Banderas, who is caught with the wife of a nobleman and is exiled. He ends up joining a clan of Norsemen to fight off the Wendel, a group of cannibals who wear bear skins. According to some of the people who worked on the film, Crichton and McTiernan fought like children while filming. They each had a vision, and neither was willing to compromise. McTiernan, up to this point, had been on fire. Nomads, Predator, Die Hard, The Hunt for Red October, Medicine Man, Die Hard with a Vengeance, The Thomas Crown Affair, and then The 13th Warrior. Within that time, he also directed The Last Action Hero, which, to be fair, had almost all of its issues stem not from the director, but way too much studio meddling. However, that's a story for another day. Considering that most of those were successful and all are pretty well loved, the studio really should have sided with McTiernan over Crichton. That didn't happen, though. Thanks to a terrible test screening, Crichton, who was the producer, took control, reshot numerous scenes, and re-edited the film. Because of this, the film had countless production problems and an elongated shoot. In the end, the film was released without having a premiere. The 13th Warrior opened on August 27, 1999 in 2,306 theaters. It cost $160 million to make, and it grossed $61.6 million worldwide. The film's often called the worst of McTiernan's career, and to that I say, what, you didn't see his remake of Rollerball? Besides, I don't think it's fair to say that this is his worst when the version we saw was not his. The only people who saw his version was the test audience. The 13th Warrior is available on Blu-ray, and it's streaming on Hoopla. Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within is a 2001 animated sci-fi film from director Hironobu Sakaguchi. The idea behind the production was to make the most photorealistic animated film of all time up to that point. The movie takes place in the year 2065, and the Earth has been overrun by an alien race called the Phantoms. A scientist, Dr. Aki Ross, played by Ming-Na Wen, and her mentor, Dr. Sid, played by Donald Sutherland, are trying to uncover a way to defeat the Phantoms and reclaim the Earth. Making a photorealistic CG film was just too far ahead of the computer power available at the time. It took tremendous effort to produce. A team of roughly 200 video effects artists worked on the film. It was comprised of 141,964 frames, and each frame took about 90 minutes to complete. So in total, it was 120 years of man-hours to complete the film. In real time, that was 4 years from start to finish. Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within opened on July 11th, 2001 in 2,649 theaters. It cost $137 million to make, and it grossed $85.1 million worldwide. The movie was called a technical masterpiece that had an atrocious script that disappointed both diehard Final Fantasy video game fans and general audiences. The upside of this is the movie still looks incredible, and while the story is a bit convoluted, it's not nearly as bad as critics made it out to be at the time. Because of how much money they lost, Square Pictures, the production studio, was forced to close in January of 2002. The main company, Square, had been in merger talks with Japanese publisher Enix since the early 2000s. After losing so much money because of the movie, Square was forced to merge with Enix and became Square Enix. Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within was released on Blu-ray, and it's also available to stream on Roku. Titan AE. Titan AE is another big-budget animated sci-fi film, but this one was from the traditional animation director Don Bluth. As such, the movie has a combination of traditional hand-drawn animation and CG. It's about a spaceship, the Titan AE, with the AE standing for After Earth. A hostile race of aliens have chased humans off the Earth, and now, 15 years later, They wander through space looking for somewhere to call home. They manage to pull in a large list of big-name actors for the voice cast. Matt Damon, John Leguizamo, Bill Pullman, Ron Perlman, and Drew Barrymore, to name a few. The film went through numerous major changes. For example, it was originally supposed to be a PG-13 live-action production. However, after seeing it would be too expensive to do live-action, they moved it to animation. After numerous setbacks and studio problems, the film suffered. Fox had to lay off hundreds of animators, and much of the film had to be outsourced to finish. When the film was finally complete, many of the dark edges of the film had been trimmed to make it safe for kids, and the film was rated PG. Although this led to an identity problem, as the movie was considered too gritty for young kids and not gritty enough for teens or adults. Titan A.E. was one of the last films from Fox Animation Studios, which closed its doors shortly after the movie bombed at the box office. I talked about this more in my video on 8 Crazy Nights. Titan A.E. was heavily featured in the advertising spots placed in front of Fox's Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. The movie opened on June 16, 2000 in 2,734 theaters. The movie cost somewhere between $75 to $90 million to make, and it grossed $36.7 million worldwide. The movie's available on Blu-ray and is currently streaming on Starz. The Chronicles of Riddick. Chronicles of Riddick is a 2004 sci-fi film from director David Twohy. After the surprise success of the 2000 film Pitch Black, Twohy worked with the star Vin Diesel to continue the adventures of the character Riddick. They wanted to expand the world to make him a multimedia star. They made comics, anime, video games, and the movie. There's a much larger story there, but essentially it comes down to Diesel wanted to turn this into a space opera, and he made a deal with Universal to do a cameo in Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift in exchange for the rights to the character. The movie revolved around the adventures of the character Riddick. One of the most appealing things about him is that he's a chaotic neutral character. He's not good or bad, but is driven by whatever is motivating him at the moment. Pretty much his own personal freedom is his number one priority. A group of aliens called the Necromongers are chasing Riddick because they believe he is the last of a race called the Furians. Riddick wages an all-out war against them, and it's pretty frickin' awesome. Unfortunately, there still was studio meddling in the film. While Pitch Black was rated R, they decided the larger sequel should be PG-13, despite the fact that they shot this movie to be R. This was coming on the heels of the 2004 Super Bowl Nipplegate, where every R-rated movie had to be neutered to PG-13 because a child may have seen Janet Jackson's nipple. Anyway, this more adult-focused sci-fi opera was cut to PG-13, and as such, many potential viewers decided to skip it, since they know in a few months it would be released uncut on DVD, which it was. The movie was released on June 11, 2004 in 2,757 theaters. It cost $105 million to make, and it pulled in about $115.9 million worldwide. Roughly 5 months later, the unrated cut was released on DVD, and it sold over 1.5 million copies the first day alone. Audiences in general still loved the Riddick character, but no one loved him more than Vin Diesel. He worked to put up a good chunk of his own money to get the third Riddick film made, which returned to a smaller scale and was also rated R. Riddick 4 Furia has been in talks for ages, but with Diesel getting older, if it doesn't happen within the next few years, it most likely will never happen. Chronicles of Riddick is available on Blu-ray, and it's not streaming, but it's available video on demand. You're better off buying the Blu-ray. Cutthroat Island. Cutthroat Island is a 1995 action swashbuckler film from director Renny Harlin. Harlin was coming off the blockbuster Cliffhanger and was looking to do another ambitious action film. The movie was about a duo of pirates racing against their rivals to find treasure. Okay, not the most original idea for a pirate movie, but really, isn't this the story of almost every pirate movie? Well, maybe not Captain Phillips, but that's a completely different kind of pirate. The movie was an insanely troubled production, with a budget that was originally $60 million that just kept going up. It started as a Disney production in the early 90s, and then jumped from studio to studio until landing at Carolco. The director, Rennie Harlin, was married to Gina Davis at the time, and so he convinced the studio to let her be the star in this giant action film, even though she had only previously done films like A League of Their Own and Angie. The male lead for the film was originally Michael Douglas. However, Douglas wasn't happy with the film. His screen time was supposed to be split about 50-50 with Davis, but after numerous script changes, he felt like he was going to play more of a supporting role. So he pulled out, leaving them without a male lead. After practically every major star at the time, from Tom Cruise to Charlie Sheen, turned down the role, it ended up going to Matthew Modine. The project continued even though the company Carolco was heavily in debt. This impacted just about everything in the production, which in turn ended up costing them more money, because as they were trying to cut corners, they inevitably ended up spending more. The movie opened on December 22nd, 1995 in 1,619 theaters. Carolco was banking on this being a hit to get them out of debt. It cost somewhere between $98 to $115 million, and it grossed a little over $10 million domestically, and there aren't any stats for it outside the US, so it must have been really bad. Cutthroat Island is listed in the Guinness Book of World Records as one of the biggest box office flops of all time. Audiences actively avoided the film. Despite this doing so bad it broke records, Harlan was able to get Davis to do another action film, The Long Kiss Goodnight in 1996, which did better than Cutthroat Island, but also underperformed and ended her action career. It may have also ended their marriage, as she split from Harlan in 1998. Cutthroat Island is available on Blu-ray, and you can watch it streaming on Amazon Prime. I enjoy all of these films, and just because they flop doesn't mean that they're bad. In a perfect world, I'd be able to cover all of these, but for various reasons, it doesn't always work out. Maybe I'll be able to tell their full story someday. We shall see. But wait, there's more! If you want to see the bonus 6th entry, please consider signing up for my Patreon. I'll put the link below. I'll let you know this time what I'm going to be doing. It's a little movie called Hudson Hawk.
I love it!